stand by for action.
Thanks for joining me. My name is Dave Milner. I am the Unpleasant Blind Guy, and I want to welcome you to part 2 of this episode of the Unpleasant Blind Guy. Now remember, if you want to contact me with comments, questions, show suggestions, Awesome American suggestions, I'm available at UBG Contact on Twitter, or I can also be found as Dave Milner or Aggedor, that's Aggedor, on Mublet, the Tea Party Community, Spreely, Minds, MeWe, or Gab. Now let's begin. We got together and we had a good time, man. And we had a good time as people getting together, and that's the key. What should happen today? Sorry, go ahead, man.
I get it perfectly, because the funniest part is all through high school and even a little bit after, when I came home on leave, I dated a black girl all through high school. And guess what? She's still on my page. Everybody who knew me when I had to do a certain thing, they're still there. They knew I was doing something. And that's the difference. People actually knew each other. I tell this story, Ohio, Columbus, specifically, because Cleveland and Cincinnati were not the same, but Columbus was. And that's the capital city. They used to call it back in the 80s the largest small town in America. And it was, because I could go to the north side, east side, I'm from the west side, or the south side, and if I fucked up, don't think my mother wasn't already there, because remember, I'm a bastard, a legit one, a legit bastard, it's a double entendre, but it's for real. It's on my birth certificate, because back then, Ohio, in the 60s, to try to fuck you, they put a big capital B. My aunt used to try to play it like, it stood for boy, but when my twin sister had to get her passport and she had to go to the health records section, there's a big B after her name too. And it was to try to fuck you. Now, she's been successful, I've been successful. It didn't stop me. And it's funny, we talked about nuclear weapons and all that stuff. That's actually, emergency management is my degree. And so that's why I enjoy talking about that kind of shit. But the greater message to it is that anybody can rise above it. And when you're a native-born American and they're trying to fuck you in your own city, in your own state, by putting bastard on your birth certificate, what else are you going to do? What else are you going to try to fuck with me with? And it hardens the skin. And that's what we've lost, is that hardening of the skin, that hardening,
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents. I mean, back then we'd say all kinds of shit to each other in high school. And it was fun, They call it bullying now, but bullying was busting each other's balls. And, trailer trash. Yeah, okay, I live in a trailer. Fuck you. Eat a dick. Nobody gave a fuck. If there's going to be a fight, we're going to go behind Frank's Nursery and Crafts, and we're going to go knuckles up. We're going to go heads up completely. But see, that's another thing. They don't want anybody to fight anymore. Everything's assault. Kids need to let that piss and vinegar out sometimes, going heads up. And even people do sometimes. And, they're just too afraid of everything. Everybody's afraid of their own shadow. And my concern, and I do want to hear, I want you to go on a deep dive on this one, actually, because I think I've diagnosed it. Everybody's so concerned about violence that it's going to make violence inevitable. And not just knuckles up, heads up fighting. We're not even talking gang warfare or any of that weird shit. We're talking about people just being so pissed off, and they're not able to use that pressure cooker relief valve of speech to get it out of them, that one day they're just going to fucking go ballistic. And we're seeing it with these mass shootings and the drugs that we're drugging the kids with. That's my opinion, and I definitely want you to go on with that.
Well, we're going, okay, you've you kind of stole my thunder a little bit on that. Growing up a blind kid in school was not easy. I can tell you that, especially when you're not a totally blind kid. Now, they were put in a special class, but if you weren't a special social class, by the way, but if you weren't, if you had some vision, but you weren't completely blind, then back in my day, you were Mr. Magoo and all this other kind of stuff. And I can tell you that stupid cartoon got a lot of blind kids hurt. It got kids pushed down stairwells and everything else. And I got in a lot of fights over it. And I lost a few, but I won a few. Okay. And I did a show again last year called School. And I touched on many of the very things that you just talked about. Okay. I don't thank the people that did that stuff to me. But one of the things that I came out of it with was, as you said, a hardened and toughened skin. People can call me a thisist and a thatist and a thisophobe and a thatophobe, and they can throw death threats at me. That's happened, obviously, because I talk about Islam. And they can do all of these things. But one of the things, and this is for the youths that listen to your show, is that I recognized love and hate, and I recognized how to deal with them. And that was one of the things, although I think it was just her personality and her persona that led me to very seriously consider marrying a black woman in the 1980s, around 1986-ish, like that. And my father, who had black friends, didn't believe in mixing the races, and he threatened to disown me. And I had to tell him, well, Dad, you got to do what you got to do, but I'm going to do what I've got to do, because love does not know color. It actually can, when you have a hardened skin, like what you're talking about, Kaiser, it can create in you the kind of personality that can recognize love and hate and how to interact better in those environs. And when you're talking about mass shootings and things like that, yes, there are no places now at this point for kids to get their aggressions out. And it gets even worse when you're talking about young men, and I will say this, young white men, because they're being blamed for all the evils of the world, and they don't know whether to F or fight. They just know that they're being blamed for all the evil of the world, which they're not responsible. They never held a slave. They never denied a black person a job or anything of that nature, yet they're being told stupid stuff by the left, by lefty racists, by the way, like that bigotry is in the DNA of the white person. They're being told this garbage. And at the same time, as you say, they're being discouraged from fighting in schools. They're being discouraged from just as smaller kids, just going out and playing and having fun. Everything is adult supervised and regimented. And it's inevitable that they go off. And I'll say this too to the people who will listen to this and say, we ought to ban guns. Yeah. In this situation, if you ban guns, all the kids will do will be just to build bombs. You'll have, you think it's bad now with the mass shootings? Wait until like entire portions of high school start to disappear because you've made it close to impossible for these kids to get guns. It's the system that needs changing, not abandoning the Second Amendment or anything of that nature. It's the system that needs to be changed. Discipline needs to be brought back into the schools, definitely. Now, there were some people, I'll tell you this, Kaiser, back in the day, went a bit too far with the discipline, and that was wrong, and you shouldn't do that. But now there's practically no discipline, and you're seeing the results of it. You're seeing these kids who tell the teachers what to do in classes and get in all these fights and everything's in classes, and it's ridiculous, some of these videos and things that you've seen. But yeah, it's all of a piece. All of this is a piece with the desire that the lefty rulers have to break down our normal society. And what's going on in the schools is part of it. What's going on with the attacks on our youth is part of it. They want to break the society down, break the family down. They want to cripple the moral leg of our nation. The American nation, by the way, I've said this for a long time, walks on two legs. It walks on a secular leg, a leg of law, and it walks on a moral leg, a leg of Judeo-Christian principles.
Indeed it does.
And if you can break that, then you can begin to build this communist utopia that they want. So that's my 2 cents.
No, I like I said, I was agreeing with you wholeheartedly on everything you said. The whole thing is, I remember first a couple of things. Corporal punishment. Let's go into that first. I'm, I guess, Starship Troopers kind of fucking guy, right?
Book or movie?
Book and movie. I actually like both, but they were divergent. But the interesting thing is, like in high school and in I believe it was even in middle school when they were. I think my first swatting was with a. Remember those old things you'd bounce a ball off of, the paddle ball?
Yeah.
My kindergarten teacher, Miss Burbacher, God bless her. She's also the one. This is back in whatever 70 something. She gave me my first swat on my ass with one of those paddle ball fucking paddles. And it wasn't bad, whatever. It hurt me then because I was 5 years old in kindergarten. And she also was the teacher who said back then it was experimental, get me on this new drug called Ritalin. And the doctor there, Dr. Santangelo, my doctor, told my mother, Betty, there's nothing wrong with this boy than a swift kick in the ass can't fix. There was common sense back then. And, oh, by the way, he used to smoke in his office. So did my mom. So there's something my Aunt Edie said back in the 70s. She died in 79. And she said, Jamie, let me tell you something. They take the cigarettes, they'll take everything. Because that was back when they were pushing to make... That's how long it's been going on.
Yeah.
Make everything smoke-free. And that was the first rip of your right. And she said, once they take a right from you, you never get it back. She said, I remember my brother Opie, bought a machine gun. He bought a, what the hell was it? A Thompson machine gun, if memory serves. And you guess where he bought it from? Sears. Over the mail, 20-some bucks. And in high school, corporal punishment still allowed. We had a three-fingered instructor for what was it? It was World of Construction. You build a house within the school. We actually built a single-story house within our school. And his name was Bixel or Bix or something like that. I think it was Bix. And we used to say 3 things. Big Brother Bix burns bad boys' butts badly. And that son of a bitch had a paddle that had air holes cut in it. And he sent you to the moon when he hit you with it, trust me. Or fight, whatever. But you didn't go to the principal. It didn't go down on your permanent record.
Yeah.
The military, when I went in the Army first. Marine Corps was still the same, but a little different, but I'll explain that real quick. In the Army, I was like, first week or two, I was a mama's boy. Gotta admit, gotta tell the truth. I've said it on numerous podcasts, so I'm not gonna lie now. Drill Sergeant Platero, baddest motherfucker on the planet. And I was a 17-year-old scared kid, but I didn't, I couldn't play that, right? But I was also a whiny bitch. Come back from a 12-mile road march. My back hurts. I know what I did. And as I coming up the stairs at Fort McClellan, Alabama, Drill Sergeant Patero was a Navajo Indian. His granddaddy was a fucking code talker. And he came out from the squad bay side, pushed me through the bathroom door, the swinging type of door, and said, Shuff, you've had your ass in your head in your ass for so long, I'm about to pull it out. and continued to beat the fuck out of me. And he said, you can allegate on me all you want. He goes, but I think you're better than that. You're going to make something out of yourself. And walked the fuck out and grabbed his brown round. After that, everybody got to see the, if anybody's been in the Marine Corps, they know what the whiskey locker is. That's where they put all the items that you need to get through boot camp, aftershave, your scope, whatever, your toothpaste, all that shit goes in there. And it's a small little thing at Parris Island, small little room. And if you needed tuned up, they'd take you in there and tune you up. And it made you better. It made you harder. And, you think I alligated on any of them? Nah. That's probably why I don't go after a lot of people that I should go after. Because it's just not something that was done during my era. The Army, I left it because at one point DUIs were nothing. The Mad Mothers got involved. And we had to start, because CID and everybody else were like, well, you got to get paper on somebody so it's not their first offense. But see, civilian police were doing that for a year or two before. And then I went in the Marine Corps. Marine Corps was still old school like that. Like I said, Army MP, Marine MP. It's a fact. Nobody can deny. And they can eat a dick if they try to, because they'd be wrong. But the point being is, went to the Marine Corps. It was old school. It was good. And about a year before, it was right after the Gulf War. I'll never forget it. I was only back at Pendleton for a little bit. And if you got somebody that was DWI, DWI or DUI, however you guys want to call it. If you got somebody DWI, you had to. You no longer had the ability to just say, park your car, troop. I'm going to drive you back to the barracks. You had to write it up. Or you could get in trouble. Well, I bypassed that. This is how you do it if you're actually doing your job correctly. You're like, look, here's how this is going to roll. I'm taking you back home. If that car moves, do not have a friend move it. Do not have that car move anywhere. If it does, I'm writing you up for DUI. And if no calls and you didn't drive by and see that car moved, I didn't write them. Because there's no sense in ruining a Marine's career or a soldier's career over a DUI where you intercepted it, no accident happened, nobody was hurt, and they're sleeping it off. That's my thoughts on that. Your thoughts?
Well, what you're talking about also is what Richard Marcinko referred to as rocks and shoals. They did the same thing in the Navy. If a trainee was, if a boot was somebody that a chief wanted to straighten out, well, they'd take them around and deal with them. Okay, but you can't do that now. You'll get up on charges. And he was bemoaning the disappearance of rocks and shoals from the Navy. Of course, the guy's been retired for a long, long time, but yeah, I mean, everything you were saying, was what he was saying. But getting back to what your aunt said, yeah, this stuff was, when I was looking at this in the 70s, in the late 70s, remember, I had been studying this stuff for about 10 years at that point. And I looked at this stuff and looked at Mothers Against Drunk Driving and looked at all this with horror, because the one reason that the left hates the slippery slope argument is because it works. And we see now where our rights are being just taken away left, right, and center. And yeah, you're right. That's where it started. The right and heck, the right to free speech began to be eroded in 1919 with that decision in the Supreme Court against, believe it or not, a socialist who wrote a pamphlet. And the phrase that they had a problem with was, assert your rights.
Wilson.
Okay. Yeah. That might have been the guy's name, but that decision 100 years ago, man, but that was when the first erosion of 1A began. And
right, that was President Wilson who did that. That's why I said that.
Right. Well, the Supreme Court ruling took place during his administration. Yes. But again, it just rolled on and on. And as the 20th century got older and older, more and more rights began to be challenged and taken away. Your aunt was right about the cigarettes. It began with those, then it spiraled into Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and at this point now, and this, in my opinion, is completely unconstitutional. Cops can set up a sobriety check area and just pull anybody over. No probable cause, no nothing. Just, hey, you're driving on this road. Yeah, we're going to check you out. Guilty until proven innocent. Okay, and that is the sort of thing that we need to get away from, and that is why I support conservatism, because conservatism is much like libertarianism. All right, basically, it's get the damned government out of my business. The left wants the government out of the bedroom. All right, but they want the government everywhere else. All right, my contention is the government needs to be out of our business. Okay, defend the United States of America. Do that. Provide a climate for common business, common medium of exchange. And then step back and let the states and the counties and the localities handle everything else. That's the way it should be. The individual should be leading the state, not the other way around. But the leftists and the globalists, who are pretty much the same thing, are trying to make it the other way around. And that is what this next generation, Generation Z, is going to have to stand up against and fight against and turn around if they can. And I wish them all Godspeed, man, because it's going to be a tough, tough climb. Your view?
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I have a coin, and Benjamin Franklin was the first one to mint coins. A lot of people fail to remember that. And you can jump in anytime I'm saying something. But the point is, the sword point, is that it said, mind your business.
There you go.
And people don't see that anymore. And there was also another thing that was a relief valve. I've given this example before. If I've done it with you, please tell me to shut up, because, it's on another podcast that I don't know which one I did. But I've told this story many times. Being a little kid up in Cleveland, and I was under 5, because by 5 I was in Columbus. Some kid, he was handicapped. He had a bicycle, and he had handlebar pedals, okay? And his parents put him up on the bicycle. This is for real. Yeah, it might have had, like, training wheels or something on it. Memory is a funny thing. But I remember it was a bicycle. And I remember that's where I first heard the term uncalled for. Uncalled for means you may be right, but you didn't have to say it. And I know what was going on in my small mind. It's etched in it because of this. This kid gets put on his bicycle, and I'm trying to make fun of him. And I succeeded. I was like, oh, look at him. He's got pedals on his handlebars. And I got the quickest smack from Betty I'd ever gotten, right across the chops. And she goes, Jamie, that's uncalled for. And then, of course, I lie. No, I just think that, and the reaction was exactly what I wanted to see, being a cruel little kid. He slumped over when I said that. Like, oh, fuck. Probably not that terminology, but anyways. But the reaction was what I wanted to get from him. Trying to make fun of him. And she smacked my face and said, that's uncalled for. That's where I learned that term. And I lie. And I'm like, oh no, I wish I had a bicycle where I could do it with my arms. Brother, I was lying. I'm telling you, I know what my kid brain was doing. And that's how I learned that lesson. Corporal punishment.
Yeah.
And that terminology needs to be brought back. You can be completely fucking right on something. But if you say something to degrade somebody or to fuck with them, then you're wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, right there is exactly what you're talking about when people are singled out. And you see this in media all the time. You know, all these little comedy shows and stuff like that. From, what was it, from the 90s, I think it was, the Golden Girls. They had that one that they always singled out for you know, just basically treating her like crap. And even in today, there's a cartoon show called Teen Titans Go, and one of them is the one that everybody singles out to treat like crap and beat up on and everything like that. When you create a society where it's okay to do that, okay, then you're going to create some people that have rage. And then the other factor comes in, which you mentioned earlier, which is that there's no other outlet to that rage than violence. Then you're going to wind up with some people on the deck. It's inevitable. And again, this serves the purpose of the globalists and people like that who want to be the ones, instead of, for instance, the church or God, really, God more important than the church in my opinion, for people to turn to for relief from this. How can we get relief from these kids that are shooting up these schools? All right, how can we get relief from these people that are beating up people who happen to be marching for this, that, or the other thing? Where do we turn to? And of course, they say, well, you should turn to government. And that is basically the thing that we're going to have to launch into and deal with in 2020. Now,
well,
I came back.
I'll tell you an easy thing that, and I want you to run with this for a minute. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can look it up if you want to. It's a Marine Corps thing, leadership traits, and it's J.J. did type buckle. Justice, judgment, discipline, integrity, dedication, and you can go on from there. I'm not going to carry on any further than that. I'm going to quick feed the dogs, and I want you to, if you bring back discipline, if you bring back integrity, and like I said, the reaction I got from him initially is the one I wanted. The funny part was, when I was lying to my mother, I was also lying to him, just to bring it full circle, because I don't think I was clear on that. When I said I wish I had pedals on my handlebars, you should have seen him perk up with pride and like, yeah, bitch, I got these handlebars that are my pedals. It was a lie. So where's the truth? And only that person who speaks that truth, that speaks the things, that's what I mean by uncalled for. My mother knew I was lying. My mother knew I was a little cunt that day. And that smack was well-deserved. That discipline was well-deserved. But at least, if that kid listens, he knows the truth behind it. And that's why I say truth always outs. Your thoughts?
Well, the truth always outs as long as it's allowed to. And that is again, that brings us back full circle to what we were talking about at the initial of the show. You have people now who are being banned, and they're telling the truth. Now, others will say, well, it's their truth. But these are demonstrable truths. Socialism / communism does not work for any lengthy period of time without totalitarianism. That's a truth. And it's demonstrably so. You can see it in societies like China, for instance. It's a good example where you have people jumping to their deaths out of windows because they're being worked to death. All right, you have situations where no, everybody's not rich. It's not what this one quote-unquote celebrity in the UK called it luxury communism. Everybody's poor except for the party leaders. And their closest sycophants, their guards and people like that, have a few things. The middle class in a communist society is very small indeed, and there's no chance for advancement. Guaranteed, even though they say that this isn't the case. This happens in China, it happened in the Soviet Union, it happens in every communist country. Once you have a cadre of party leaders, that passes along families. So you wind up with a caste-ridden society. Now that's just truth. And the people at the bottom of that society, which is most of the people, are lucky if they get the real crumbs, Nancy Pelosi, of society, meaning any of the quote-unquote luxuries that you might want to think about. If they get a single-room apartment with one light bulb, they're feeling lucky, all right, because that's about all that the glorious People's Revolution gives them. All right, now that's one truth. Okay, the other truths are the social truths, the truths about saying that it is wrong to blur the sexes. This is one thing that hasn't come to full culmination yet. And for you young people, you'll see more of this than we will. All right, my prediction is that within, I'd say by about 2040, you will see a lot of people coming out and saying all of this transgender stuff and everything that I was involved in the earlier part of this century, I have no idea what I was thinking. There really are only two genders, and I have to decide which one I like and which one I want to be, and all of that sort of thing. A lot of this stuff is what we used to call a fad. It's fashionable. Nowadays, it's fashionable to be gay. It's fashionable to be gender dysphoric. There have always been people who have been gay and gender dysphoric and things of that nature, but at its core, it's a very, very small number of people. It's become larger now because it's the fashion. You see this even in the news with, for instance, the Hallmark Channel, who ran a commercial with a supposed lesbian wedding, and the audience did not appreciate that and said so. So what did Hallmark do? They pulled the ad. They said, well, we don't want to be involved in any of the controversy. Well, then the gay mafia, small g gay, a guy who used to do a great podcast back in the day, calls them, the gay mafia, got upset and contacted the Hallmark Channel, and hey presto, the commercial's back in. So this kind of thing happens, and Netflix, that wonderful Netflix is about to put on a program about how they think that Jesus was a closeted gay. Okay, and all of this to blur the truth that yes, there are only two genders, and yes, the actual gay and lesbian population is pretty microscopic. It may be about the size of how many blind folks there are, to be quite honest, and that segment of the population ain't very big. Okay, the truths of the economy and society, the economic issues and the social issues. Okay, the truth about racism, racial issues. What they want you to believe is that there's a white supremacist under every bed. Kaiser and I just pretty much proved that the whole white power sign thing is a crock. It never was a quote unquote white power sign. It was a joke. It was a goof, and the left took it seriously. But now they're putting it into their white supremacy terrorism nonsense. No, guys, there's not a white supremacist under every bed. Is there racism? Yes, there is. And I'm going to tell you the truth. We all have racist thoughts. So what's the solution? The solution is for us to recognize that Satan is always doing his job. Whenever you have thoughts like that, and we all have them, all right, you can quash that by recognizing it for what it is, by recognizing it for the evil that it is, and by recognizing, as I said earlier, that love has no color. Once you do that, and you have the Judeo-Christian ethics, then you've got it. You can defeat racism in any and all of its forms. And that is a truth, again, that the left does not want you to hear. So that is why people like Kaiser and myself are attacked. It's why people like Tommy Robinson is attacked for pointing out the evils of Islam, and myself as well. This is the new battleground. Old media is over. This is the new battleground, and as long as I can do it, with appropriate breaks, of course, like the one I'm about to take after the 19th, I'm going to. And Kaiser, if you're back, I'd like to get your comment.
Oh, I loved what you said, especially that, look, I'll tell you this. I've lived in Islamic countries. I'm 50-something, and lived in them probably, I think now, let me see, hold on. Got to do the different tours. 1/3 of my lifetime, roughly. Maybe a little less, but not much. By months and days and shit. Over there, I always spoke to people just like I would a hillbilly in Ohio. Don't try to use big flowery words. I've seen people do that when they were instructing people that they get confused by. Talk to them like a regular person. And 99% of the time, if you push hate, they can sense it. If you're pushing some sort of bias against them, and I tell this story often, and I've said it to you, I apologize. This one I have to complete just because it's the truth. Lieutenant Aguil, this guy was a Gulf War veteran, and on the Iraqi side, by the way. This is in 2005 when I met him in Al Qut. Great guy. But when we first met each other, both of us distrusted each other. At the end, he told me something that I was supposed to upline, and because of honor, and he had shown honor, and he had shown loyalty, and he had shown respect, and I had to him also. Never got uplined because I didn't need to. And because he was not a problem. Because I asked him the questions. Do you still think Saddam should be in power? He goes, no, fuck Saddam. But he was Shia. And remember, Saddam was Sunni. But see, Iraq is not, it was never governed by religion. That's the fallacy that the media tried to spread to help make that war happen. And even when I was in, I knew the difference. You have so many religions in Iraq, just like you said earlier. There's Jewish sections in Baghdad, in Mosul, and different places. And there's also, your Shia, your Sunni, your Yazidi, your Turk kind of people,
Zoroastrians?
No, Zoroastrians are closer to Qut because we were only 40 clicks from Iraq, or Iran, in Iraq, from Al Qut. Actually made a couple accidental crossings. That's how I'll put them. Accidental. But yeah, no, it's a fact. And so this guy's secret was safe with me. It ended up getting outed by somebody else who was a bag of shit. And he was an American trying to score, points, thinking he's doing something. This guy's not ever coming to America. He didn't, and ended up having nothing. It didn't affect Aguil. but it was just the speed bump that he had to deal with. We all have them, right? So, it's nothing more than retardation and getting your ability to decide what you should share. If it was important, trust me, I would have shared it. I'd share it with anybody. Well, not anybody, but with people who need to know whenever I found out anything about somebody, if it was a problem. If it's not a problem, I file it away in my thing, in my mind, and then if I start seeing drifts and problematic behavior, then that's actionable. It's the same thing that our Constitution has. It's probable cause. You may have a real fact, mere suspicion. That's a mere fact. But see, that's what they did with a mere fact, mere suspicion. The Pissgate thing with Trump. It was made up. It was a drunken thing, and yet that was the basis for a FISA warrant that was started and renewed another 3 times. That means 4 times they renewed it under him.
Speaking of that, man. Speaking of Pissgate, do go on and tell the story. I'm going to go shake the snake. I'll be right back with you. Okay?
Not a problem at all. So, anyways, it was a drunken story, bar talk, and so when they actually got to the source of it, not the subsource, not the source that gave it to Christopher Steele, it negated it. And the IG, everybody will talk shit about Horowitz. I won't, because he was factual. I mean, he did try to downplay stuff, but you have to remember, an inspector general is trying to protect their agency from mass lawsuits. This is a fact. And that's one of the jobs, because he knows this opens up the FBI to a lot of bullshit. And I've said it numerous times. The SES, Special Executive Service, has always been a problem. They're all lefties for the most part that I've met. And on the intelligence side, the SIS, Special Intelligence Service, and they're all we're not in GS level now. We're talking SES level. And that's a Special Executive Service is what it means. And SIS is Special Intelligence Service. So they're making 6-figure salaries every year. And they love it. And of course, that's college. You have to have, most of them have doctorates, or they're lawyers. They've spent a lot of time in college. And they got all those good bona fides. They got those ones from Yale. They got it from Harvard. The same thing that infested our universities from Columbia University. And Columbia University is where the Frankfurt School started. It's not a conspiracy. It's just they all have groupthink. And it becomes a conspiracy when they actually... I've said this before on numerous shows. A conspiracy theory is nothing more than, okay, Joey Bag of Donuts or Joey Rock or Joey Little, it doesn't matter, decides to go rob a bank. Well, Joey may have said something to somebody. Well, was that a conspiracy? Well, we have to find out. And if Joey Rock, Joey Little was involved, then yes, it becomes a conspiracy. But my theory that I started out with might be that Joey Rock, Joey Little, Joey Bag of Donuts, it matters not. My theory was, he had knowledge of it. Well, Joey Little, Joey Rock, Joey Bag of Donuts might have thought he was joking in a bar and drunk. So it's about intent. It's about, did you think this was real? Did you think this was really happening? No. Did you go there? Why'd you go there? If you went there, why'd you go there? Oh, because we were going to go watch an air show, and I happened to be right by that air show, right by that whatever, cigar shop, bank, whatever. And it just happened to be the same day that, idiot decided to do something. And you can find that out, especially now with all the different cameras that are everywhere. From ATM cameras to Walmart cameras. Anytime somebody spends some money on their debit card or credit card, that's logged in. If they got pulled over near the area, that'll be logged in. There's all kinds of ways you can find a trail.
That's right.
And so that's my thoughts on it. I mean, conspiracy theory versus an actual conspiracy. And with this one, I've been trying to think of it any other way, but Horowitz did say it was either done very negligently, and what he was talking about was malfeasance. It was malfeasance. Or it was done purposefully, which is a conspiracy, which is you willed to do it. You had full feasance in doing it. There's no miss, mal, or non. You did that willingly. You became a part of that conspiracy. And the theory that you have to look at that Horowitz had was it could go from either way. But remember I said he's also trying to protect against lawsuits because they're going to rain down. And the fruit of the poisonous tree is very real. If it's found, and that's why the FISA court's keeping its mouth shut right now. Even though they knew they had a fraud on the court, that could endanger the court, which is necessary for a real terrorist. That's why it was invented. But if there was a fraud on the court, and people don't understand this, even cops do, because they know that it'll undo. If you fuck up and do something wrong while you're under color of law and enforcing the law, and you do something wrong, everything you did, every arrest, everything can be undone from that. Because now it calls into question all of your things that you've done. Everything you've touched. Fruit of the poisonous tree. Same thing with the court system. That's why they expect a higher standard from people. Your thoughts?
Well, yeah, they should expect a higher standard. And look, if whoever, for instance, this FISA court judge was that signed off on all this dossier nonsense and everything that started this impeachment garbage, whoever they are, they need to be quietly removed. I'm not so. Now, some people might say, well, they should be perp walked and have their name dragged through the mud and all that kind of thing.
At the minimum, quietly removed. I agree with you. Just told to retire.
Just get rid of them. Just say, hey, you know what? You like fishing? Yeah. Okay. You're gonna go fishing. We're gonna go on a long fishing trip. It's gonna last about 30 years. Okay. See ya. And now, if they do that, and I have to say, Kaiser, that you have kind of changed my mind on all this when it comes to actions the FISA court ought to take on itself. If they do that, then the integrity of the FISA court remains in place, and they can do what they need to do in real, actual cases involving terrorism. So that would be a good change, and I hope that that's something that is done. But if it is, it's something that very likely we won't hear anything about, and that also is a good thing, because the last thing you want is for the media to get hold of it. But the thing is, now I'm going to have to boot on out of here. But I want to tell you, man, it has been a big ball of fun as usual. Really awesome to get to speak with you. This is a little program note for people, if you don't mind. The English Defense League radio show will be doing its final program on Thursday the 19th. All right, and we will be running that from 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we're going to be doing our Christmas show. It'll be a little bit of a different kind of a Christmas show. Not a lot of Christmassy stuff in there, but it's going to be something different. And we may even have a good guest. So please come and join us then. And we will be back live at the same time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern, on Thursday, the 9th of January. That's when we'll be back. And in between time, Dave's going to be chilling and maxing and relaxing and enjoying, old Barney Miller episodes and stuff like that there. And hoping Ohio State beats Clemson in that game on the 28th. And all sorts of things like that there, man. So I want to thank everybody for listening to this. And Kaiser, thank you for having me on your show. I want to say I appreciate everybody that has said that they liked it. And I just hope that I did a good job for you this time, brother.
You always do. And, of course, I'm a homer from Columbus, Ohio, so go Bucks. I always love having you on, brother. Point of a point of agreement is that I always enjoy having you on. You are a breath of fresh air, a good sounding board to throw my stuff at, to see where it's going. You're a reasoned man, and folks, you understand why I have Dave on now. It's an enjoyable conversation. We don't script it. We don't plan it. We don't talk about anything. We just hit a hot mic, and this is what you get. So, with that being said, thank you all for sitting on my big orange couch. I will slowly raise the drawbridge on Kaiser's castle, and allowing you the time to meander on out and finish your coffee, tea, soda, or adult libation. With that being said, Shuff out.
And that is it for this time. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you for listening, and may your God go with you. Goodbye. The Unpleasant Blind Guy is copyright 2020. Anno Domini. Now for Dave's Canes. Extras that help you navigate the new media world.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
From a public locker inside a dilapidated Long Island rail station comes a show designed to piss off liberals using truth, facts, and ridicule. The Lid Radio Show, featuring the conservative voice from the People's Republic of New York, the Lid himself, Jeff Dunitz. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
This is Shannon Wright of The Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Mike's not here, so I gotta talk fast. You gotta join us. Fall season. Getting ready to start up with a whole bunch of new stuff. News and food and politics and sports and entertainment and a whole bunch of stuff. But wait, Mike's coming. I gotta go. Remember, Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media, Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. Make sure you tune in.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America, one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
Join me, Jack Alexander, for the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast, as I take a unique outsider's look at the issues affecting the USA. I fearlessly take on the issues that everyone else is too scared to touch. The Jack Alexander Experiment podcast is available wherever good podcasts can be found, like Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Google Podcast. The Jack Alexander Experiment, because it's not a matter of left versus right, it's a matter of right versus wrong.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Featuring the effervescent contrarian Sackheads Clint, plus the unrestrained bulbosity of BZ, the Sackheads Against Tyranny is a real chat show. Doubling your late-night conservative talk show pleasure with double the hosts, you can listen every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 p.m. Eastern. Please note, some contents may have settled during shipping. Member FDIC, batteries not included, warranty void in Montenegro.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.